Welcome to Wahine Wealth Club, where we are redefining wealth for the modern Wahine. We are so excited because today is our very first episode.
It's also International Women's Day, which is very fitting that we wanted to launch this on this day. Means a lot to both of us, obviously being females in the spaces that we're in, but also with the community of the amazing Wahine that we're going to get to reach, that we're going to get to hopefully inspire and create a community with. So happy International Women's Day to all of you listening.
International Women's Day,
We love
guys.
you guys, and we're very, very excited to be here today and to really share a little bit more about Wahine Wealth Club and what we're all about. So before we get into that, I wanted to share a bit about today's sponsor. So today's episode is brought to you by Mean Training. Mean Training is the premier personal training solution for individuals in Hawaii and beyond. Mean Training delivers results through its tailor-made programs crafted for each individual based on their goals, history, and fitness levels. Whether working in person or online, you'll be paired with a coach dedicated to seeing you succeed and committed to walking alongside you every step of the way. And we are very excited to provide our audience with a 20% off their first month of online personal training. So this is an exclusive discount for Wahine Wealth Club listeners. So head over to www.itsmean.com/WWC and fill out a form to get started on your fitness journey today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I can testify to the training program at Mean Training because I've been using it
Angela's
for
a client.
almost a year now. Yeah, and it's great. I love it. Best decision I ever made, honestly.
Oh.
I just feel so much more confident, like knowing the proper right way and form of like how to do things so I can, lift for longevity and yeah.
She's also super strong. Just
Oh.
a side note. Angela's
Thank
underselling
you.
herself. She's also clearly an athlete, but also just an amazing, coachable person in general, and just a ton of fun to work with. So I'm her coach, but we're both a little biased here, but we have a lot of fun together.
Yes, and even more fun now doing our first episode. So today's episode will be all about pretty much sharing about what Wahine Wealth Club is about, why we both felt pulled to start this together, a little bit background about me and Hannah, and about our 5 pillars as well. So I guess let's dive in.
Yeah. So today we really wanted to kind of cover sharing more about Wahine Wealth Club, like Angela said, about why we started it, what it means to us, what exactly it is, because I think that's something that, just is like right now it's a little bit ambiguous, but we want to share more exactly about what exactly we want to be bringing with Wahine Wealth Club, but also sharing one of our pillars, which is ikigai. And so ikigai, if you're not familiar with it, is kind of the culmination of, it's a Japanese principle, and it's the culmination of what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what you love. And that's kind of what it defines as your purpose in life. And I think for a lot of us, especially, men and women, but especially women, I think a lot of times we feel this sense of not entirely sure what that purpose is. We're told what it should be, but we're not able to define it ourselves. Ikigai is something that Angela and I have both really connected on just organically. It's something we have talked about in so many different ways, and in so many different capacities. So today we wanted to share our ikigais, our stories, our origin stories, and kind of put that all together with why Wahine Wealth Club is important to us. So Angela, I would love to start with just, obviously I know you very well. We've had the opportunity to get to know each other in professional, but also in just personal ways. And I feel like you and I have shared a lot of similar experiences. When I met you, I felt like I think we've talked about this before, but I felt a very strong connection to you just with some of the things that we both have gone through. And so I guess when you think about your ikigai, when you think about kind of where you started, where you are now, and where you want to go, what would you say is been one of the things that has really propelled you forward into pursuing Wahine Wealth Club, pursuing Fight Story, pursuing all of these different things that you're doing. What would you say has been like that kind of moment that you were like, this is what I want to be doing. This is where I want to be going?
So let me first start off by saying that it was not easy to get here, to really finally understand like, wow, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And this is like every day I wake up and it's a purposeful life that I'm living. And it took so much trial and error. And I feel like my focus and I guess my my focus and my motivation for things have shifted throughout the years. You know, when I was fighting, obviously like my goal was to become a world champion. And then once I attained that, then it was okay, now like how many times can I, you know, rack up those wins and I gotta stay the champion and then having a bigger impact though was something that I always kind of longed for or like strived for because so many people told me like, Angela, you know what you're doing just by fighting on that stage, like you have such an impact on like millions of girls around the world and like millions of like young people who want to, you know, chase their dreams. But I didn't really feel it, you know, because I felt like I was very, you know, being a fighter, you're very focused on yourself, on your goals. And it's, so I didn't really exactly, like people were telling me that I was, you know, an inspiration and things, but I didn't really truly feel it. Like I wanted to give back more. And so after I retired, and then I started Fight Story, I felt like, oh, I'm finally able to kind of fulfill this this desire in my heart to give back to people, to create this community, and I guess pass my knowledge and experiences of what I've been through, and help guide others through that. And, you know, I felt like, and I still do, I really feel like I poured my heart and soul into Fight Story, and I really love what we're doing, and there's still so much more yet to come. But it was also really hard for me at the same time because, you know, like the origin of Fight Story and why it came to be, for me, was very emotional. Obviously, like my story, my sister's story. And so every time needing to talk about that and share like how Fight Story came to be, it was really difficult. So sometimes like it was really draining for me.
Yeah.
And so all of last year, while we're still working on Fight Story, and then at the same time being very present in my gym, United BJJ, feeling that sense of community in both spaces, I just wanted, I guess like I had a lot of time to think about like, what am I doing? What is it that, you know, what is my ikigai? Like, what is my purpose here? Like, I felt very lost, to be honest. Like, after I retired, that was 2023. And then the remainder of 2023 into 2024, I was like, man, like, I don't know who I am outside of being a fighter. Because my whole life, I was pretty much a martial artist. I mean, I was competing since a young age. I kind of grew up in that world. And so now that that's not who I am, I'm like, well, what am I even good at other than fighting? And so that was a journey, trying to really ask myself those questions and reflect. And like every day I would like think about it a little bit more. And so yeah, I was thinking about my ikigai, and ikigai is, you know, what is something that I love, you know, something I'm good at, something that could help others, something that I could get paid for. Because to be honest, like I was like my income stream was cut from being a professional fighter and world champion, and like honestly, fighters and champions do not make nearly as much as you think they do. And so I really didn't have like a nesting egg to rely on those savings and things like after I retired. So I needed to kind of find an additional stream of income. And but I didn't want to just get a job just to get a job. You know, I knew that I needed it to be something purposeful, so that I was like, that's the only way we'll succeed, if there's meaning behind it. And so you know, in the past, you know, few years, I really felt connected to my female friends. I actually made like more female friends than I have in like my entire life. Like growing up, I didn't have many like girlfriends. I was usually the only girl in the gym.
Yeah.
You know, training with like all boys. And so it was just kind of like a new thing for me. And I was like, wow, this is so nice. And at the same time, like, you know, because I didn't have my sisters with me, like I knew it would never like replace, you know, that, but it was helping me get through like a really tough time. And like they were the support system that I could lean on. And like, yeah, it was just really special. And I was like, wow, I've never had this before. Like, this is so nice. And so that kind of got me thinking, and I was like, I want to do something for women. I want to do something for girls. And I was like, there are so many women out there, I think, who feel the same way, you know, and it's hard, like, especially I don't know how it is like out there in the real world, but sometimes like girls in the training room, like they can get really catty. Like they can be like, you know, always trying to like, I want to be the number one girl, you know, and like that's how growing up, like it was just like the culture, and like always trying to like outdo the other person, or like there can only be one. And I was like, I'm so done with that. Like that's so toxic. And I was like, it doesn't have to be that way, and that's not how I want things to be. So it's like I found so much like joy and just like strength in uplifting like my other female friends, and really coming together and like hearing what they've been through, and like they've been sharing advice with me, and like being able to have that bond, you know, it was really special. And I was like, I want to do something further than this. I was like, we could probably create like a whole community of these like kind of like-minded women who are all trying to find the same thing, is essentially like, what's our purpose here? You know, what's life all about, you know? And like, how do we make the most of that? Because I don't think that you should be waiting until you're like 80 to really feel like you made it and you're like there and you figured out life. Like you could start doing that today, of like where you're at. And it just takes a lot of honesty with yourself, a lot of like vulnerability, and like having that kind of like killing the ego, and just like really searching of like all these different layers and all these different parts of who you are. Because at the end of the day, we are all human, but you know, there's beauty in that. And like I said, like I found Wahine Wealth Club and what we're doing now through so much trial and error, through so many days of like confusion and thoughts of like, what am I even like doing? Like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. And so finally to arrive here, I just have so much passion and heart and excitement for just this beautiful thing that we're creating.
Yeah.
And I just want to share it with others.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, I know you and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and I feel like I feel like we have a lot of those same conversations just like naturally, like organically about life. Cause I think you're right. Like this is something that people know you as like Angela Lee, 6-time MMA world champion, right? But I actually didn't get to know you till after that. I didn't get to know you until you were just my friend Angela. And so I think it's really beautiful to be able to peek behind the curtain a little bit of like seeing what that experience is actually like. Because I think in the world of social media, the world of the internet, the world of like always looking and seeing it, it always looks like someone else has something more than you, right? You always look and you're always like comparing, you're saying like, oh, this person is excelling in all of these ways, like 6-time MMA world champion. That's, I don't know, if that doesn't say quote unquote success by like, standard, like the world standards, I don't know what else does. Like you're at literally the top of the top. You've done it multiple times. And so people would look at that and they would say like, wow, she like has it all, right? But underneath that layer is so much of that searching that you're talking about, of that identity, that pressure of like being told, oh, you have all these eyes on you. You have like all of these girls that are looking up to you. You have to be like the role model. You have to be the one that like does all of these things. And I think those things can weigh on you, but you are able to take it and turn it into something really beautiful, which you're saying like, I don't know what I'm good at besides fighting. And I think it's that. I think it's like you have a really beautiful characteristic about being able to turn those pains into passions and take it and make it into something that's amazing. And I think Wahine Wealth Club is I guess at this point, 2-year-long journey of you being retired and being able to take that and go through so many hard experiences, like retiring and feeling like, oh my God, like who am I? Not having the financial support, losing your sister, just different things that you guys have had to endure. And now you're like coming out with something like this is the beautiful art piece that's coming out of it, right? And I think that in itself, I hope is inspiring to people to know like, hey, there's a reason why these things happen. It's also what connected us, like as much as our stories are very, in a lot of ways, I mean, they're just devastating, of like the reason why we connected, I think on the level we did of both losing our sisters the way that we did. It's also allowed us to like really create something that is so powerful and impactful. And not only with just this, but also with the work you're doing with Fight Story, which I do give you so much credit for being able to like go through that, because I know what that's like to have to relive that time in your life. And it's not something that I like to talk about because of that reason. So the fact that you do that every time that you do any Fight Story event, the fact that you have to kind of go to that place again, it's very selfless of you, because I don't think I could do that. Like, I don't think I could do something where I had to continuously go back to that place. And so the fact that you're using that to bring light to something that really needs to be talked about more, especially in a space that needs to be talked about more, is really, really beautiful. So I just want to commend you on all of those things. Like, it really does, not only obviously as like your business partner now, but also your friend. Just like that, to me, is what I think you should feel really proud of when you say like, I don't know what I'm good at besides fighting. I think it's like a combination of all of those things together.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this thing that I kind of tell myself, and it helped me to get through a lot. And because a lot of people, they say like, oh, everything happens for a reason, and then there's some things that happen in life that is just like horrible, and like there should be like no reason for that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But it does. It happens. And then pretty much like you have a choice of like what you're going to do next. And I really think like these things happen in life and we don't have any control over them. But what we do have control over is how we choose to react. Like, we get to choose where we go from there. And so that's something that we can be proud of, you know? And, you know, it feels like it's been such a journey. But yeah, you know, like, that's just one thing I keep telling myself is like, no, there's no reason that these things should happen, but they do happen. And so taking that power back is like, okay, well, I can choose how I'm gonna react to this. I can choose where I'm gonna go from here.
Yep. And you can choose who you surround yourself with too. Because I think that, to me, has been a really common theme of like, just in our conversations, and then obviously both of our lives are like pretty hectic, pretty busy, like, you know, business owners, athletes, you're a mom. You have to be really conscious of who you surround yourself with. And I think that's something that I really admire in you, is you have a circle of amazing people around you. And I think that, I hope that's what Wahine Wealth Club can become for everyone that chooses to be a part of it, is it can be an extension of that community. And, you know, kind of similar to what you were saying about not having a ton of girlfriends, you know, over the years, and always like having like a little bit of feeling like not fitting in. I think I can very much relate to that. But it's funny, the older you get and the more you like grow into yourself, the more you don't really care what people think about you. You're just who you are. And the people that naturally gravitate towards you are people that are going to bring out those best things in you, and that see those things even when you don't see them, and that can encourage them and can inspire you. And I think that's, again, a really beautiful strength, to be able to cultivate that when it like doesn't really exist. It's like, let me create it. Let me make that happen for myself. I'm not just going to sit around and be like, oh, I wish I had better friends. I wish I had a better relationship with these people. I wish I could do X, Y, or Z. It's like that ability to say, I'm going to take ownership and I'm going to take control of that, and I'm going to create it for myself, because I think that this needs to exist in the world. And so this is what I'm going to do. I think it's also that entrepreneurial spirit, right? Which we both have. It's like, we're both very like, let's just do it ourselves. Like this whole thing, literally this entire project has been just like a WhatsApp thread of just like late night voice memos of laying like,
a lot of Pinterest pins,
a lot of Pinterest boards of just being like, hey, I really like this idea. Like, cool, we don't have the money for it. How are we going to do it? And then we just figure it out. And that's just, I think that's like a really good analogy for just kind of like life, you know? It's just like, there's always going to be excuses. There's always going to be a reason why you can't. But the biggest reason why you can't is because you're saying you can't. If you want to do something, you can do it. And that's like,
Definitely.
that's like, I think, something that I'm really excited about. Like, I think being able to impart some of that to the people that we get to speak with.
100%. So I guess we can lead into your why behind Wahine Wealth Club, if that's okay, because I know I was talking a lot just now, but
oh no, that's great.
No, I really want the listeners in the community to hear, I guess, how you came to find Wahine Wealth Club, and you know what your, I guess, purpose is, and like how you found your ikigai.
So I think for me, I've always been someone that is very like, I guess I just kind of, I was homeschooled growing up. So I was homeschooled till I went to a very small high school. So I was very sheltered in a lot of ways because of just the way I was brought up, just like the, you know, kind of way my parents raised me. But I was also very much encouraged to be a free thinker. So I was sheltered in a lot of ways of like, you know, not being allowed to do certain things, but I was very much inspired and encouraged to think outside of the box. As a homeschooler, that's kind of like, I mean, you don't go to class and you don't like sit down and learn fractions. Like we would do science projects at the beach. Like we would go like to the tide pools and go like do science projects at the beach or, you know, different things like that. So I was always, and I credit a lot of this to my mom. She's a very eccentric person and I love her, but she just thinks outside of the box. So I think for me, I was always like very much thinking in that way. Like it was very much just kind of trying to look at things a little bit differently. And, you know, I think as I've gotten older and I think as I've gone through a lot of different things in life, I really realized that for me, I think my ultimate purpose is, as cliche as it sounds, is to create and then be able to share that. Like I really feel like for me, the way that gets put out is different. Like the way it's packaged looks different, right? Like whether that's through fitness or whether that's through marketing or whether that's through podcasting, you know, it's like all of these different avenues. But I really think for me, like ultimately what my heart and my like passion is in creating, is in taking something from literally nothing, like a blank piece of paper, and then being able to pull that forward and see it all the way to its end potential. To me, that's what gives me the most feeling of just like, wow, like this is really like something that I just made. Like this didn't exist before. And so I think naturally for me over the years, that's really been flexed mostly in business, in pursuing my own business, in helping other people with their businesses, small businesses, and then also in this, you know, being able to collaborate on this with you and have this really amazing idea and be like, okay, this is a cool idea, but like, what next? Like, where do we go from here, you know? And being able to create that structure and put it together and like, now we have this thing that's alive and breathing. And that's the way I think about business. Is I don't think about it like as a like thing that you just like have on your desk that's like, you know, just boring and outdated. And I think of business as something that's alive, that, you know, it's a brand. It's something that comes to life. It's something that has potential. It's something that has a community around it. And so I think for me, my ikigai really circles to that, is to creating things that giving it a life of itself and being able to share that with people and being able to create things that I feel like align with my values and my purpose as well. And for me, you know, Wahine Wealth Club, I think it was something I didn't know that this is what it was. Like I didn't know this is what I needed. But once we started talking about it, and you were like, hey, I have this idea of like this thing. And then I was just like, oh my God, yes, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And when you shared with me, you wanted to create something for females that like redefine the concept of wealth and like thinking about it in the way you were thinking about it. And then the work we were already doing together with training, and then just like all of our random like just being business owners, like trying to figure stuff out and like all these conversations we've had. And I was just like, oh my God, that's it. That's like exactly what it is. That's like missing. And having something that feels like it can help other people that maybe are where I was at 10 years ago, you know, even 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Yeah. I went to college because I was the only person in my family to graduate college. So my parents never went to college. And so I had the opportunity to go, and I felt like I needed to go because I was like, well, I have the opportunity that like, you know, I should probably take it. Mm-hmm. And so in going to college, I was like, well, I guess I'll just get a degree in business because I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but at least business is practical. I was like, I don't want to just like have this degree I can't do anything with. So, you know, I always tell people though, no one prepares you. I was actually talking to a client about this yesterday. No one prepares you for how shitty the first year out of college is, because everyone's just like, oh, like you graduated, like you got this like great degree, all the opportunities are going to open up for you. It's going to be amazing. And then you graduate and you're like $50,000 in debt and you don't have a job and you probably don't have a ton of friends around if you move back to where you came from because they're all gone. And you're just like, who am I? Just like, what am I even doing? You know?
Yeah.
And it sucks. And no one tells you that, especially in college. No one like prepares you for that. And so I just felt like for the first like probably 5 years out of college, you just feel like kind of lost. And you're just like really searching for like who you are, what your purpose is, what your ikigai is, and you're in debt and you're trying to like get a good paying job somewhere. And I think for me in those years though, they're really formative because they showed me what I didn't want to do. It was like, okay, I tried this. I tried the 9-to-5 office. I tried like, you know, punching the clock. I tried like doing all the things to like climb the corporate ladder, to like show up and do better work than yesterday, and I'm still not getting recognized for it, and my ceiling's only so high. Like I was like, okay, I tried this. This is not what I want. This is a life that I know if I stick with this, if I stay on this road, I'm going to wake up 30 years from now and I'm going to be like, what happened to my life? Like, where did my life go? How did I end up here?
What was there a key point in that revelation or like?
Yes. So it was in the last job that I worked on before I decided to transition into me training full time. It was actually during COVID. There's, I mean, a lot of things that happened during COVID that were very much just like kind of like that pinnacle of all of those things. But it was essentially during that time, I kept getting overlooked and kind of promised things that weren't getting delivered on in terms of what the next progression was going to be for me in my career. I was told, you know, oh, you know, don't worry, like we're going to keep you like during all the layoffs and everything, you know, and then it was like the next level is like coming, like you're going to move into it, just like be patient. And I just felt like it had just been happening so many times at that point that I was just kind of done. I was just like, I'm not being appreciated for the work that I'm putting in. And there's this thing at that time, I was just doing mean training on the side with online personal training. And then we were doing like some random like beach boot camp workouts and stuff like that. But I was just like, dude, this is really cool. This is like where my passion lies. Like this is something I am willing to work, you know, 24/7 on and not get paid for, but I just like love this work versus over here, this job that is paying me, that's like stable, secure, all the things that they tell you to like look for in a job. But I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just like sucking the life out of me, you know, and I really want to put that into this thing that I'm passionate about. And I actually quit my job in the middle of COVID, which was in hindsight crazy. Like my parents thought I was insane because they laid off so many people, but they kept me, and then I quit. And my mom was like, what are you doing? She's like, you just like, you know, and I was like,
that.
yeah. And it was just like, it's like that gut feeling, you know, it's like, you know, like your gut knows before your brain knows. I'm a big believer in that when you're just like, no, this is what I need to do. And this is the time I need to do it. And in hindsight, it did not make any sense on paper financially. It did not make any sense just in like the structure of like where the world was at with COVID and just all the things going on. But I was just like, it's just what I got to do. I don't know. Like that's just, and yeah. So, you know, obviously like looking back on that now, and I guess trying to tie that all back in with Wahine Wealth Club, I'm really passionate about speaking to that girl, about that person that maybe, you know, is in their 20s, like just graduated college maybe, or even like someone that's older that maybe is having a career change. Maybe you're in your 30s or 40s and you're like in that point where you're like, oh my God, I just woke up and realized my life isn't what I want it to be. Where do we go? And I really want to like be able to have those conversations, to be able to share those things. Not because I have all the answers, but because I think together, like the combined power of us speaking with guests and being able to share those things and also just opening up conversations within the community of other women, I think that is missing. And that's something I'm like, man, if that existed when I was in that place, I would be so about it. And like I said, I think that creativity side of like, if it doesn't exist, we should create it. If we think it needs to be in the world, then I think it's up to us to make that.
100%. Like me and Bruno actually, like we have this, this saying or just thing that kind of like is very similar between us. And then also I see it with us too is just take the risk. And, I think a lot of times people, they're uncertain about things, like they want to do something, but something's holding them back. And it's not like a reckless risk, I mean, like sometimes like you got to have it thought out and stuff. But I mean, if you're not happy, I mean, like this is your life. Like you can 100% like change it or find something new or do what you want to do. But sometimes there's always that thing stopping you. And, as we were talking, I kind of had a flashback of we met or like I heard of you even before we had a chance to connect. And it was when I think we were looking for a new space for our gym. And then a mutual friend was like, oh, I know this couple, Hannah and Ricky, and they do a fitness thing and they're looking for their gym. And I was like, oh, but like, it just didn't align up that time.
Yeah.
And then like how life is so funny, it just brings us back to meet again. And at this time it was like, wow, it was like perfect. Like we were meant to, we did a 5K Train for Your Brain event together with Fight Story, and it kind of just took off from there. I also wanted to kind of like share with the listeners on the day that I took the risk and wanted to like open up and share like my thoughts about ikigai with you. And it was literally in the other room at the studio.
Yep.
And Bruno was having a training session and I don't know what I was doing. I was supposed to have a training session too. But
I think you were supposed to be training, but Ava was just like crawling all over you.
So yeah, I wasn't able to have my session because Ava was just like had a lot of energy. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I've been doing a lot of thinking and writing, and I just felt this urge, this like push to share it with you. And I was like, I don't even know why, but I'm just gonna like share it with Hannah and let's hear her feedback on it.
She like whips out her phone. She's like, I need to tell you about something. And has like this whole like Google Doc written out. I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. A lot of like, late nights just like pretty much like journaling or getting my thoughts out, talking to ChatGPT, like
good old friend ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Helped us out a lot.
And yeah, it was pretty much like, what you were talking about earlier of like, I have this thing like on my heart. I want to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And then as soon as you read it, like I think the next day or like later on, you were like, I feel like I really resonate with what you wrote. And that was like the very beginning of how this whole idea came to be.
Yeah. It was crazy because I think you shared it like, it was like totally unexpected. You shared it with me. And like when I was reading it, I was like, oh my God, like this is like kind of what I was saying. I was like, this is like that thing that like I kept feeling like there's something more that needs to be like brought out, And then I think like also to our relationship of not only friends, but then also like your fitness journey, right? Like of like, pursuing your fitness after fighting, after being a professional athlete for pretty much your whole life, like being a fighter. And then like pursuing just your own personal physical wellness, and then how that bleeds into the mental and how that bleeds into the spiritual and the financial, and all of those components come together and make your ikigai. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the thing. And I think it's crazy because it just feels like so much of that and so much of like our interactions and relationship up until this point have really just felt like they just kind of like organically happened, but it was very purposeful.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a Christian, and that I have like very strong faith, and I don't think anything happens by mistake. I don't think it's a mistake that we went through the same things that we went through with our sisters. I don't think it's a mistake that we had like all these weird points of connection before actually meeting. I don't think it's a mistake that we both share very similar passions and very similar interests in the things that we do. But I also don't think it's a mistake that like timing wise that it's happening now the way that it is. Because again, I think back to like the person I was even just 5 years ago, and I'm like, that would have scared the crap out of me. Like I would have just been like, oh my God, like that's so scary. Like putting yourself out there like that, like jumping into something completely unknown. I'm like, I don't know how to start a podcast. Like,
Yeah, me too.
is anyone going to listen? I don't know. Like, and that would have just like totally scared me. I probably wouldn't have taken that leap. But I think the years of like, you get reps of like putting yourself out there, and then also opening yourself up to those opportunities and being open to other people and being able to be vulnerable with other people too.
Yeah.
Those opportunities and those things just kind of naturally happen. And that's really how I feel like all of this came to be, was just like conversations we're already having, passions we both had, and then like you being like willing to share them with me. And then saying like, yeah, let's do this thing. Let's like figure it out. We don't know what we're doing, but we'll figure it out.
Yes. And I just to add to that, it's like, I don't think I could have done this alone. Like, I think the reason why this is happening is because it's the two of us coming together. And, a lot of times just, for others listening out there, like sometimes the thing you want to do, it's a lot, it's scary, but you don't always have to take that path alone. Like, lean on your friends, lean on your community. And, if it's meant to be, there'll be some kind of a sign, I feel like, that'll push you in the direction. And yeah, I mean, there's a saying, right? Like, especially coming from my background, like, when you fight, you go into the cage, like it's just you, right? But so much of that preparation is because of the team that you have around you.
Yeah.
And so, just encouraging, whoever is listening, that you don't have to take on, this big mountain by yourself. And that sometimes that's hard to do, is to like take that risk to go out of your comfort zone and share that idea.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah. Because, you don't want to sound dumb. You don't want to sound like unrealistic or whatnot. But if you never take that chance, you never know. So,
Yeah. I totally resonate with that idea of like fighting is quote unquote a individual sport, but you have your fight camp. You have your coaches, you have your training partners, you have all of these different people around you. It's like almost exactly the same thing with powerlifting.
Yeah.
And how like when you go up to compete, like you're on the platform by yourself. But what you don't see is the 20 weeks of your training prep where you had your teammates like encouraging you, you had your coach coaching you, you had people spotting you. Like you don't see that, right? But like when you get on the platform, it's like, oh, it's just me up there, but it's not. I look at it the same way as I look at people that say they're like quote unquote self-made, like people in business. That's like unfortunately, I feel like a more popular term now of like people being like, I'm a self-made business owner, I'm a self-made entrepreneur, whatever. And I just want to be like, no one helped you. Like not one person. You can't think of anyone that helped you. Like it was all you.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it exists. I think every person that has done anything amazing in life has had help. And to say like, oh, it's just a solo thing, it's a solo endeavor, it's like, it never is. There's like someone that told you something one day that like inspired you. Or there was like a word of advice you got from someone that was older that had done it before you that was like, hey, you should do this, And I think that mindset, it really can carry you forward. Ricky and I always say in our business, in, coaching and in just business and life itself, is you can go faster alone, but you can go farther together. And I am a huge believer of that. I'm a huge advocate of let's like get past the like old mindset of like everyone's competition and everyone's like out to get you. Because it's like, sure, there's competition. There's times when you have to fight. Like you're a fighter. You know that. It's like you get in there, you have one goal and it's to win, right? But life doesn't work that way. That's not the way like life works. Is you have to be able to trust people. You have to be able to surround yourself with other people. And if you're only going at it from the perspective of like, what can I get out of this? How can I like get to the top? How can I like dunk on everyone else? It's like you're going to burn fast and bright, and then you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be like, oh, I'm all alone. Because I said I was...
purpose of all
exactly.
this?
You're like, I said I was all alone. I said it was just me, and like now I'm actually alone. And so I think that that's a huge part of, again, the community aspect of this is like you said, like, unfortunately, there's a lot of female circles that are catty. That is the mentality. It's like, oh my gosh, like everyone's like at each other's throats and saying stuff behind each other's back. They're acting so nice to each other.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about each other behind their back. And it's like, it's exhausting, you know? So I'm really passionate about creating something that what you see is what you get.
You know, and that's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And like, we can testify to that, you know, that like the life we have, the life that we have worked hard to create, and the people we surround ourselves with, those are all like very intentional, you know, and being able to recognize, you know, unfortunately, you live and you learn. Not everyone you come across is going to be, you know,
For you.
right.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a lesson, and learning to create those healthy boundaries for yourself is so important. Like making sure that this space is a safe space.
And having hard conversations and not being afraid to cut people out if you need to also, you know?
Yes.
It's like, don't just keep people around because they've been in your life for so many years. It's like, hey, if they're not like, there's not a reciprocal relationship where you feel like you're pouring into their cup just as much as they're pouring into yours, or you feel like there's a continuous cycle of like, this person continuously does this thing that like hurts me. It's okay to walk away from those relationships. And that's something like I think I have done more recently in the past couple of years that's like been very new and uncomfortable.
Yes.
But then you're free of it. You don't have to worry about it. You're not worrying about what they're saying behind your back because you're like, not my problem. Whatever they're saying, not my problem.
It's been one of the most difficult things that I've had to work on in these most recent years. And because I'm naturally like a people pleaser, you know, and it's very hard for me to say no. My husband knows that. Like, I will just bend over backwards to just try and make everyone happy. And, you know, because I like peace, you know, and even though it's
interesting as a fighter.
But yeah, you know, I've had to really, I guess, have that difficult conversation with myself and be like, are you really happy? What's bothering you? And, you know, what helped me a lot is like, I love caring for those around me. And so I thought of it as like, care for yourself the way that you would care for others. Care for yourself how you would care for Victoria or Ava. And once I put it like that, I was like, yeah, I would be very protective about, you know, about who gets access to them and like who, you know, influences them and who is treating them the right way. And like, you know, like I would be very, you know, protective of them and stand up for them. I was like, I was like, I gotta stand up for myself that way.
Yeah.
And so that's like, yeah, it's been a big game changer for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's something, giving yourself the permission to do that is huge, of saying it's okay to do that. I think there's a line there, right? Of like, sometimes you have disagreements with people, and that's normal. That's part of a healthy relationship, is you're not always going to see eye to eye with everybody. We're both married. Like, I don't see eye to eye with Ricky on 100% of the things, but values-wise, we align pretty much every time. Our values are in the same place, but maybe our perception or the perspective is a little bit different, and that requires a conversation to figure out where the other person is coming from. I think that's very healthy and that's very normal. But when it's someone like you're talking about, if you were to look at them in an objective perspective of like, this person is hanging out with my, you know, family member that I love, how are they influencing them? How are they impacting them? How are they feeling walking away from that consistently? And if it's always like you feel drained, you feel like anxious, you feel burdened, you feel like this person is just sucking the life out of me, it's probably not someone that you should be keeping in your life, at least very closely. Maybe you keep them at an arm's distance away. You say, okay, I'll see you from these times to these times. You know, these are the things that are okay, like for us to be talking about, to converse about, you know, maybe you build those boundaries, or maybe you have to just take a step away from it entirely. But I think that is something to being both Asian background and being women, I think that's also something that like you kind of have to give yourself permission to do that, because I know both of our upbringings is very much like, just like don't like cause any like issues, you know, just like kind of just keep the peace, like you're saying, like people please.
Yeah, exactly. Like that role is kind of like already put upon us. And so like breaking that mold and like speaking up and being like, no, I'm not going to do that. This is not how I'm going to live my life. And, you know, for so many people, doing that is hard. Setting those boundaries is hard. But it's like, choose your hard. Like, are you going to, it's hard to set those boundaries, but it's hard to also be feeling that way and be surrounded by those kind of people. And so it's like, choose to stand up and you know, speak up. So, yeah.
How has Bruno impacted your life in that pursuit? Because I feel like I know you and Bruno have been together for kind of a long time at this point. You guys got married pretty young, and then he was with you through your journey as a fighter, as an athlete, and then also just into transitioning to motherhood, to like this venture, to all the other things you're doing now. How has he been a part of that journey for you?
Oh, man. He's really changed my life so much for the better. This year, we're going to be married for 7 years, celebrating our 7th anniversary, and then like 9 years together, which is crazy. Like, we've just gone through so much life together, and I'm really, really grateful that that we've had each other to lean on through all of the ups and the downs. Like, seriously, like you were saying, like finding a partner who you really align with, and we're both very big dreamers. You know, we've been like that, and since we met each other, and you know, being able to kind of like dream big, think outside of the box, and like we don't know how we're gonna get there, but I know we're going to get there one day, kind of a way. And that's just really what's carried us so far, having that trust that gets built over time. And, you know, I just really can't say enough good things about him. I really feel like I got so
He's
lucky.
Great. He's the best.
And I think that, you know, it's been like I am the woman I am today and the mother I am today because of him, and because I have such a great partner I know I can rely on, that allows me to fully be myself and who I am and be comfortable with that. And you know, I would love for you to share more about Ricky too, because he deserves some spotlight.
Oh, we love Ricky. Everyone loves Ricky. I don't think I've ever met anyone that doesn't like Ricky. Probably also the same with Bruno. They're both pretty amazing. And they also love each other a lot too. So they have a hardcore bromance going on. Yeah. No, I think, man, Ricky and I like pretty regularly talk. Every night before we go to bed, we have like a thing we've done for, God, several years at this point, where we tell each other 3 things we're thankful for that day. And then we pray and we go to sleep. And like every single day, we've done that for years. And that has really like given me, I think, a perspective of like throughout the day, I'm looking for something to say at the end of the day that I'm thankful for, because it's like, ooh, like I'm going to tell Ricky about this at the end of the day, you know, and we like talk about it. And he's just someone that I want to be more like. I don't know how else to describe it. Like he just really inspires me. His perspective on the world, his like empathy, the way he works is just like so inspiring. He's like, he's kind of insane. Also.
I was about to say, he's kind of crazy.
He's kind of insane. And sometimes that is something we have to like, we balance each other out in that way, right? I'm like, because I'm always like, hey, you got to take care of yourself too. Like you can't burn yourself out for other people. But he is just that kind of guy. He's just so hardcore for everyone else. And what you see is what you get with him too. And I really admire that about him. Like he doesn't like hold back. And he's the exact same person with me that he is with everyone else. Like he doesn't have like putting up airs or putting up like fronts or anything like that. It's very much just like very genuine.
Yeah.
And I think like similar to what you're saying with Bruno, we've been through a lot together. A lot of amazing times, a lot of really dark times. We met in college, and we were friends throughout college before we ever dated. We were just friends in college, and then we were both dating other people, and we would actually like share stories about like things that were going on with our significant others because we were just friends. And then like, after college, when we actually started dating, I just knew he was the one. I was just like, I was like, I'm going to marry this guy, And I think that, I don't know, the reason I wanted to ask about Bruno is because I think it kind of circles back to that idea of we didn't get here by ourselves. And I think it's important to acknowledge that as much as I am so excited to be pursuing this with you, I also think it's important to highlight the support of them.
Yeah.
And saying like, they're like so for us. And
they are like rooting for us. They're so excited for us to do this. And like, that is the support that I hope that everyone gets from their partner. It should be like that, and
not to say it's perfect. Not to say like, man, marriage is hard.
Yep.
Like marriage is hard. There's hard days. We don't have kids. You guys are saints. Like parenting is like, I see you guys parent together and I'm just like, wow, that is a lot of patience, So it's not all roses. It's not all like every day you wake up and you're like, wow, this is the best. It's still hard. It's still work. But when it's with the right person, that work is so easy to do because it's worth it.
For sure.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about people to thank, Ava is going to be 4 years old. She probably isn't going to see this until later. But no, like having her and becoming a mom, everyone says this, but it's true. It's like, it really changed my life. And I would not be where I am or who I am today if I didn't go through that journey of motherhood. Like really something shifts in the brain and the heart, and like, it's funny, like she becomes like the most important thing, but then also I know what she needs, love and care, and so that means that I need to show up for myself even more.
Yeah.
Like she and Bruno are like the two that got me through the darkest time. And obviously, like, I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. Like, I didn't know how to even get out of bed. And, like, I was like, I can't be like this for them, And sometimes if you can't do it for yourself, like, do it for others. And then that helps you to take care of yourself again.
Totally.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love you, Ava.
I've heard that from so many people of, like, having a child just changes your life, even for people that think they don't want kids, aka me. That's like, Ricky and I have always said, like, it's just not something that either of us were like, we weren't really prioritizing, it was just something neither of us were like those people that just always wanted to have kids. But we always say that could totally change. And I think I've heard it enough times at this point from people like you, from other people that we know that are like, yeah, I said the same thing. And then I had them and I was like, whoa, this is crazy, So I think it is something, it should change your life.
Yeah.
Like you can't be the same person with a little small human running around that you were when you were on your own. Like that's just not the way it works. And it is really beautiful to see, like, I think those traits that kids can pull out of you, of like that like
Yep.
silliness and that like presentness, also the patience.
It's
and
literally half of you and half of your partner, like combined into one human being. And like, you really do get to live like childhood over again though, like and experience all of it, but like better. And like, I don't know, it's really special. Rooting for you guys.
Make us part of the baby family.
Give everyone baby fever.
Oh my God. We'll see. Maybe one day. I don't know though. I guess as we kind of like wrap up this episode and as we hopefully have kind of like shared a little bit more about what to expect with Wahine Wealth Club, I wanted to just hear from you. What do you want your legacy to be outside of just like things that you've done, outside of maybe like accomplishments, right? Like, what's something that you want to be your legacy when you leave this earth? Because we all are going to one day. What's something that you feel like you want to leave behind as the impact that you left on this world?
That is a big question.
I know. I'm sorry I put you on the spot.
It's okay. No, like I was thinking as you were speaking, and for me, I really feel like legacy isn't even about me. It's about the things that I have done or said that maybe have impacted someone or changed someone or helped someone, and then they are able to better themselves because of that. And so it's like a ripple effect. And that's just what I want my legacy to be. If something I said or did or, could have, affected someone in some way for the better, some positive way, then for me, that's like the ultimate legacy, is like being able to spread that positive like ripples of change. Yeah.
And it outlives you because that can live on in other people and in different ways. Yeah, I love that. Well, I think that's a good place to officially wrap our first Wahine Wealth Club podcast episode.
Yes. Are we going to end with our question of wealth? Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so our closing question, Hannah's going to answer. What is one way you generated wealth in your life this week?
I'm going to be honest. This week has been a little hectic, a little chaotic. So I haven't been probably as on top of this as I would like to be. But I would say one way that I generated wealth in my life this week is in taking the time to do something that wasn't necessarily productive to the situation right in front of me, but that I knew was going to refill my cup. And it was a very simple thing. It wasn't anything crazy. It was something that people are probably like, oh, that's not very exciting. But Ricky and I were working late last night, and then we were going to just go home and eat meal preps and just go to bed because that's what most of our days look like. And we instead decided to go to this restaurant called Tanaka Saimen. Shout out to all the locals that know Tanaka Saimen. And we got a cheap meal, and we just like put our phones on the side, and we just enjoyed a cheap meal and just talked about our day and all the things that are going on. And it was just like probably 45 minutes, but it was 45 minutes that really like refilled my cup and helped me to really process and be thankful for the time and the place that we're at and all of the things that are going on that are like answered prayers that we've been wanting and asking for so long, and now we're getting them and looking at them as a blessing instead of like a thing that's on the calendar. It's like, wow, we get to do all of these things. And we had a cheat meal and it was great.
That sounds very wealthy to me. That sounds like a very great night.
That was honestly like the best, probably the best thing that happened in my week so far. Besides this is pretty great too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Well, excited
thank you guys for
more.
listening.
Yeah, thank you everybody, and can't wait for more to come and
see you on
to
the
grow
next
this
episode.
thing. Yeah. See you guys later.